right, everybody, welcome to a white lithium Euro trash short. And wanted to make a little video today about something that my white 86-900 has been doing lately, which I think is a K-Jet nightmare. So this car was out of commission for 3 weeks while I sorted out the alternator and all that stuff. I don't even think I made a video about everything I did to kind of like fix the alternator bushings and support in a way that I actually am happy with. But here, let me show you what's going on. So the car idles really smoothly. It's running great. But when I take off at low throttle and I transition from low throttle, barely open throttle, see it goes chugga, 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 chugga. And then once the throttle gets open enough, all of a sudden it's like it really smooths out, right? And so what I think is going on is that it's sat with shoddy ethanol fuel in it in my driveway for 3 weeks. And the spool valve that's inside that K-Jet fuel distributor with all those little seals, either the seals or something, got all plugged up in there. And I know it's not the injectors because, you know what, it runs really smooth at idle, and at wider throttle openings it also runs really powerfully, and it has good power, it runs great. It's the transition that is the problem. So it's right when that little baffle starts to open at low vacuum levels that the problem is. So let's try and do something about it today, because it's driving me mad, and I think it's bad for the drivetrain to vibrate like that. Let's get to work. Luckily, I happen to have an extra Saab 900 8-valve engine with an extra fuel distributor on it. So instead of taking this thing apart and rebuilding it, which is what I should do, I'm simply going to swap the components. But you know, I haven't been at this garage at the other place in a while, and I've got to I just need to get myself under control. And you know, the one thing I would say, don't think about time spent organizing your toolbox as wasted time, right? Like, your toolbox is constantly something that's being reinvented, like, because basically like how you organize your tools, that's a question of your priorities, right? Like what you have most accessible to you. Well, obviously those safety glasses, not a high priority, but that, you know, I've started kind of keeping like this multimeter right here sitting in the top, you know? Keep a hammer, keep a couple little hammers over here. What are you doing there? You don't belong there. Dielectric grease, fucking never use that shit. What a pointless product, actually. I don't know. I feel like dielectric grease is one of the most overhyped products that there is. But yeah, all right, let's get going. Another problem I have is that the quantity of aerosol cans and stuff that I have is like overtaking my workbench. So I need to go and just get them all put on a shelf. But again, some of the ones that you use all the time, you want to keep them close. And these little Hazet folding, collapsing tool carts are so incredible when you need to bridge the gap between your primary toolbox and something else, whether it be just moving out to the driveway here, or even, you know, you can fold that down into a compact size, stick that in a car and bring it along. All right, let's just, honestly, I'm pretty tired of having this thing on and off here. But let's go ahead and just get this fuel distributor off. And I expect to spend, what, maybe an hour doing this. I just don't want to keep driving it like this because all of that stuttering is just so, it's not, you're not delivering torque in a smooth way. And it's going to be bad for the drivetrain, you know? So, all right. There we go. You come off there. And you come off there. What I believe is the problem is the valve right here. As you open the throttle, it increases the vacuum that pulls this baffle up, okay? And the more you pull it up, like you can feel it in there, it's pushing on a little spool valve right here that's controlling the flow of fuel out to the injectors. And And I believe the problem's in there. I'm just going to quickly pull off the other part. Quickly, just to make sure everything's like kosher. This thing has been sitting disassembled for a very long time, which I don't love. And I don't really know because, I purchased this complete engine from Ben Crone. He's at Saab Sickness. The car did run. He knows a lot about Saabs, and he a lot more than me. And I assume he selected a good part or rebuilt it or something. So I'm guessing that this part is a better part than the one which is currently on the car. So just like that, we have liberated this part from the car. Look, he's got a nice looking gasket on here. I might not even try and remove that. Good looking gasket. Now, whoa, where is this mixture screw? That is the screw, right? Yeah, it is. Oh, it just gives you access in there to get a tool in to adjust the screw. Yeah, and you're not supposed to mess with that. This is not a fastener in and of itself right here. This is just access to get in here to adjust your mixture adjustment. And you are not supposed to touch with that. That's like a factory setting, right? That is not. The problem is that people do go in there and screw around with these. Okay, so I'm going to take off all these right here. I recently had that thing on and off, and so when I was replacing this gasket, the one that he has a nice one of right here, kind of a tough gasket to find actually. Had to come from Europe, and I don't want to be dealing with that again, but I replaced all these copper rings at that time. And one of my questions is, shouldn't this hole for this adjustment be like sealed with something? Doesn't that make a vacuum leak? And then this little clip right here is how you set your idle air mixture, right? So that controls how far open this little thing is when, you're at idle. And that's a really critical adjustment. I'm going to kind of do a little look in here. This is going to be hard to see, but I actually feel like, all right, so if you look down in here, let me come at it from the back, okay? There's a flat surface right where my thumb is right here, right? The angled surface transitions into a flat surface. I believe the top of this is supposed to sit exactly like just a little bit, just flush with the top edge of that transition. And I might make a very, 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 very slight tweak to this. Just the very slightest tweak. Okay. Okay, I'm going to help myself out here. So we have in the front right corner, we are going to cylinder 4. Then we go to front left corner goes to cylinder 3. Bottom left corner goes to cylinder 1. Bottom right corner goes to cylinder. Look at how I'm still storing a little bit of fuel pressure in here. So when I crack that one fitting, I'm gonna bleed some out because the check valve hasn't completely bled off all of the pressure yet. All right, so we're just gonna take these, go back here. All right, now we just come around, pull off every one of our things. man, who tightened those? Just take it slow. Don't lose all of your copper washers, because there's a bunch of them on here. A bunch of them. Some of them get kind of glued on. Just be gentle and take it slow. It's like shoddy 80s German lovemaking is what this is. All right, now we're gonna come along and we're gonna pull this assembly off. Let's get all of these screws off. I'm going to Italy in a day. Okay, now we have liberated this part. Let's take it over to the garage. Before I put this other part on the car, I'm actually going to take this like heavy duty duct tape and I'm just going to cover up that hole right there. Just to make sure. Now the part that came off the car has a plug in it, okay? I don't know if you can see the plug right there. And it had a lot of oil on the wrong side of it, which I'm extremely confused by how that oil is getting in there. But it's probably not a great reason. But anyways, so I put this on here because it was lacking the plug. And that would have caused a pretty bad vacuum leak. All right, let's go ahead and get this thing on. First of all, I'm going to use his gasket instead of mine because I like the quality of his gasket a little bit more than mine. Get that in place. And I'm going to delicately put this into place without disturbing all of my little copper washers that I have hanging in space. Okay. Gotta kind of get the gasket aligned carefully. All right, good. Now let's just start populating some screws in here. And sorry, my memory card just went full there. So, you know, long story short, I end up doing the timing chain job myself on that car, which is the 4.8 twin overhead cam V8, 440 horsepower. Lot to it, right? So long story short, I know the car pretty well. And, you know, when I was doing that job, I had the car apart for like a month, you know, as I did it in little bits and fits and starts and so on and so forth, right? And when I got it back together, you know, the thing runs perfectly, runs absolutely perfectly, but it always had this check engine light with this, you know, this code on it, P0068, mass airflow correlation problem. And of course, like Porsche makes it so you can't just go to AutoZone and get a scan tool and like read their codes in a meaningful way. You need some specialized stuff. And so, you know, I was always just annoyed by it because the car ran perfectly, but it just wasn't, you know, it wasn't exactly right. So eventually I'm like, hey, we're kind of, you know, she and I are kind of moving on with our lives. And I'm like, you know, the car runs great and there's really no reason to replace it. It has 190,000 miles. And, you know, for me, it was my car. I bought it. I drove it for a long time. And I want to see that thing get, I want to see it be the highest mileage, you know, Porsche Cayenne of its type ever that exists. It's a testament to my ability to take care of a car. And so I was like, you know what? Take it to a mechanic. Take it to these guys who are the local, you know, I'm not going to say their name, local European auto specialist in our local area here and have them diagnose it, right? Okay. So they do it, and basically they're like, yeah, the oil separator, this like simple little tiny piece on the top of the engine, like the very top thing on the engine is bad according to them, right? And so I'm like, okay, cool. What's going to take to fix it? Then they're like, well, the valve covers and this and that, and basically it's going to be $2,000. So, and I call the guy up. I'm like, dude, she sends me over the quote. She's like, hey, look at this. And I'm like, all right. So I look at it, I'm like, really, $2,000? I look up on FCP Euro. I'm like, okay, even the genuine Porsche part is only like $600 and some dollars, right? And the parts on there, you know, okay, so if you believe that they're actually giving you the genuine Porsche part, their quote for parts looks, you know, looks rational, looks right, like they're not ripping you off. So I call the guy up, and I'm like, okay, how many hours do you guys have in this job? And they're like, 7 hours. And because the guy was like, yeah, the valve covers are leaking so bad, we're gonna have to like pressure wash it and blah, blah, blah. You know, so anyways, there was a problem in there, okay? Because when I did kind of quasi forget to reinstall this one tiny little seal, okay? On the VVT actuator, which is, it's part of the valve cover, right? And I was like, yeah, I know. And then I put some shitty sealant on it, which I hate. I've never been that guy, but I'm like, look, I'm not taking the valve covers on and off of a Porsche Cayenne is like not, it's not the same as doing a Saab 900, right? The problem is that they have all the decorative crap on top of it. It takes an hour just to get the decorative covers off, you know? And, you know, so it showed up on a smoke test, whatever. But I'm like, all right, what's the root cause of this check engine light? They're like, yeah, it's the crankcase air oil separator. I'm like, okay, cool. I know exactly what part it is. It's like literally the easiest part to change on the entire engine. I'm like, and they're like, I'm like, how much time do you guys have in this thing? They're like 7 hours. I'm like, really? Okay. Here's the deal, and the guy knows. And as soon as the guy who's like the estimator knows, he's like, oh, this guy kind of knows a lot about this car. They're like, they know that their game's up, and you know, they're like, they know that they've like lost the job at that point. So the point I'm saying is the way industry treats low information people and especially women is so fucking awful. If I was a woman, I would never want to go to a mechanic with that way. Like, or here's your other alternative, okay? Maybe the reality is that to have a working, viable business, fixing, you know, complex automobiles like that, maybe having a $150 labor rate is simply not going to work, okay? Maybe the reality is that you need to have a $300 labor rate. Maybe that's why the dealers have the $300 labor rates, right? All right, how did this go again? All right, so I think we've got it all put back together. And now we're gonna turn it on and see if I fix my problem. Or does it run at all? Let's see here. It's gonna take me a while to get the fuel purged in there. Oh, there she goes. Didn't take as much as I thought. Interesting. Interesting. I don't know that I totally fixed my problem here. I partially fixed my problem. Actually, I think I did fix my problem. Let's go drive this thing. I do think I fixed my problem. It is running very differently, I'll tell you that much. My idle speed is oddly changed and oddly lower than it was before, which is interesting. Okay, so this is fascinating. By replacing that fuel distributor, I have like 90% solved my problem. Again, the symptom was you transition from idle to on the throttle to like a low throttle, okay? And sorry, that's the police right there. And it would sputter and stutter on me, okay? And now, since I've replaced this piece, the symptom is like dramatically less, okay? But it hasn't totally disappeared. So now I'm thinking like, all right, did whatever clog the thing up clog up an injector? Do I have like a bad injector now or something? And I need to like swap around some injectors perhaps? I need to test the injectors maybe. We're in first gear. See that? It just doesn't, little lack of smoothness there. Much better than it was. Yeah. I don't know. I almost want to check the timing too. All right, here's what we're going to do. Okay. Just to eliminate variables, I'm going to swap the injectors also and see if it changes the situation with the injectors, and then we're going to look at the timing. The reason I'm doing this mostly is because it's easy and I want to rule out the variable, okay, before I dig into other stuff. Because it's like, I know that I just produced a change by replacing this other component, but I didn't make it completely go away. Okay, so I changed it. I really believe the problem here is a fuel-related problem, not an ignition-related problem. I think that it would not idle smoothly or as smoothly if I had an ignition-related problem. Okay, so an interesting anecdote is also that not all these injectors leaked uniformly, leaked fuel uniformly as I undid the hoses. Some of them were, it's like they were storing vastly more fuel than others. All right, let's just get these injectors back on here quick. Now, yet another variable for you guys to consider is that in the time when this problem materialized, I had also replaced the seals on the injectors with new ProPart Sweden seals. And so here, I don't, there's so many variables going on. I wanted to put the seals from the injectors that were on the car, which are the quote-unquote new seals, onto these other injectors that I took off the other spare engine. But, you know, the thing is, these things are so caked on here and kind of old that I was like, well, probably going to have to cut them off, and I didn't really want to do that. So I'm going to try it as is with the existing seals that were on the injectors, and let's just see what happens. Okay. I've also got a little bit of definitely this number 4 cylinder, or the number 1 cylinder, the one closest to the firewall, it did not have as much stored pressure inside of it as the other cylinders, okay? So again, what I should have done is I should have just changed the injector on that one, which was my gut feel. But again, we're shooting from the hip here, all right? So much for a short. This was supposed to be a short. Okay, I was supposed to just throw some parts on here and then wham bam, thank you ma'am. Away we go. Now let's turn it on with the other injectors on it. See what's up. Completely different. Oh my God, completely different. One of these injectors must have been plugged. Oh my God, it's running so smoothly. One of those injectors wasn't opening until high enough pressure. All right, let's drive it again. I almost don't even need to test drive the car right now because I can already tell that it is running like a completely different automobile. Okay, so what is our takeaway here? Why did I assume that the fuel distributor was going to be the problem, right? Oh my God, completely smooth. No stuttering whatsoever. No stuttering whatsoever. So back to normal. So basically, over the course of this car sitting and not being run for 3 weeks, one of those injectors got completely plugged up. See, now I'm a little bit annoyed because I'm like, I did all that work to change the fuel distributor and so on and so forth. I learned a bunch. See, even when I just do a rolling start from second gear, immediate power delivery. Immediate. Okay, well, so much for a short. This is gonna be an hour-long episode, but thanks again for watching. Thank you for subscribing. We did crest 400 viewers, on our way to the magical 500, and peace out. Keep wrenching. P.S. You guys want to see how ballers do it? Boom. Let's fix that fuel leak. Peace out.